Now you will. Paul Sanders.
Justin Duraki.
Vaughn Morgan.
Jim Rolls.
Chip Huzzy. And we have a quorum, and the meeting is being recorded. Okay, the first order of business is not listed on the agenda, but I wanted to make this clear weather opportunity to have a preseason session with our plowing contractor. Jim Jones and I decided a few years ago that a preseason and postseason meeting would be a good idea and a good way to communicate any concerns he may have or the board may have regarding the plowing season. So I put him at the beginning of the meeting, just in case we get a snowstorm, which we're hoping we don't. And he would have to get up and get if that was the case. I'll start by saying that the roads have been well taken care of so far. No problem. People actually have said that our town seems to be doing better than some of the surrounding towns, which I like to hear too.
I had no calls with complaints.
Good. That's good.
Phones were busy, yeah.
I haven't heard from him, and I haven't had any mailbox calls.
Yeah. But again, we just want to
I'll
start.
tell you, Bay Ridge was a little tough. It was mostly the ice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and so the ice really got bonded down tight, and that was hard. It's just breaking up today, but it was pretty bad for a while.
Okay.
So I'm gonna always be the case.
It is, and the problem that we had with this was we had 3 storms coming.
Oh, yeah?
And so we had everything stocked up in the beginning. But in the middle, we tried to conserve as much as we could because we needed to get to the end.
Mhm.
And so we may have been a little bit light on the salt when we shouldn't have been, but at the same time, we didn't know how it was gonna play out, so.
I know exactly what you mean. Same thing on my driveway. I tried to do the same thing, and I got caught the same way.
Yeah.
I did
And
too.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, we thought we were all smart scraping it down, and all we got was a perfect skating rink
That's right.
instead of a bumpy skating rink.
That's right.
Has the bracket lane been resolved?
Yes.
Does your drivers know that they're
Yes.
supposed to do that?
Yeah. That
Okay.
shouldn't be done.
So we're not gonna have another,
Sorry for
okay,
the outburst.
all right.
And is this our year for Charles?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I had a resident concerned about outside contractors getting some salt,
No.
using the loader. They said they witnessed this. This is what they told me, is that they witnessed a truck with a sander and come in. The gentleman got out of the truck, got into the loader, loaded his machine, drove it to Northampton, and spread it out of business. This was, I got a call Christmas Eve day.
Christmas Eve day.
Yeah,
I don't know of anybody
all right,
that,
all right. So that violates for Greenland only, not to be outside
that's right.
source or anything like that. All right,
The security cameras will be up shortly
okay.
by the end of the year, and that area will also be covered, which will
All right.
help any of the theft stuff.
I guess another question, what's our policy with residents coming in getting a bucket of salt or whatever? Is that a problem, not a
No.
problem?
They can get a bucket per storm.
Okay. And you haven't had any difficulties with that with folks?
No, they come and get a bucket or two, and that's it.
Yeah, there's a shovel there, and
Okay.
Okay, Chip, anything?
No.
okay,
Any-
Paul is on vacation now until the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So can you handle
Yeah.
what he normally would be doing for us? Thank you. And our sander is out of commission. Thank you. Thank you for your help in getting that picked up.
Yeah.
But that is broken. I've talked to the insurance company. They're gonna send the appraiser out. It's close to $6,000. It's a $5,800 piece of equipment. So
Okay.
And what happened?
it somehow fell out of the back of the pickup truck.
Oh, so I take it as scrap.
It's totaled.
Mm-hmm. Ouch. Okay.
It just fell out, that's all we know.
That's all we know. I talked to the driver extensively. He said he had already made 2 passes with it. And when he turned the corner out of the parking lot here, he felt it shift and looked and
Completely out, like on the ground.
on
not
the
leaning
ground
up on the
out,
truck.
right?
I
Yeah.
didn't see it out. The boy saw it, but
Yeah, on the ground out.
Wow.
So, what, you had to take your loader and pick it up and put it somewhere?
we had to pick it up and we had to pick the salt up.
Looks like there's a right front holder may have pulled out on him.
Okay.
Chip went
I'm not a real fan of those plastic things anyway. We got a plastic truck we deliver tanks with, it scares the hell out of me, because that's all it's holding the tanks in the back of the truck's plastic.
Yeah, I took the pictures for the insurance company this morning, and none of the straps are broken, all the clasps all seem perfectly fine.
Oh.
So,
So it failed right at the tank itself.
I'm not sure where it failed.
Yeah, look, that's what it looks like. It could be just, it had enough slack in it, and it was cold enough where it just popped.
Yeah, okay.
And I know that the dump was kind of icy one day. I called Jim, he responded right away and got a sander up there to take care of it, so. We appreciate you doing that.
All right,
So anybody else have any questions? Do you have any,
status quo,
we have no more use for you then.
all right. Until the next time, right?
Until the next time, you got it. Thanks for
As
coming
soon
in,
as you can
John.
get this bills in for me, the better,
Okay,
because I'm really tight on the budget and I'm trying to,
okay, I'll
like,
work on that.
I need like,
All right, thank you.
Alrighty, second we have two public hearings to accept donations.
Yep.
First is the acceptance of a donation from D.D. Cook Builders.
yep, this is for the Heroes and Helpers program where the police department takes a family or two to Target, shopping for Christmas presents. We've already accepted a $1,000 donation, I believe, from Target towards this. This is a $300 donation from D.D. Cook for the same purpose. And we just received one from REP for $250, which will be on the next meeting because it has to be a posted public hearing. The invoice is in the manifest that they took to family shopping. And so the manifest reimbursing the chief for all the money is in there today, and then this grant will reimburse the town.
Okay.
Did they buy $2,000 worth of Christmas?
$1,500.
It's not too hard to do if you got kids.
They usually try to choose a family in need that has lots of
Go talk
kids.
to my kids.
Your kids aren't kids anymore.
I know.
All right, entertain a motion.
I move to accept the donation of $300 from D.D. Cook Builders for the Police Department Heroes and Helpers Program.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is there a letter that automatically goes out so I don't have to bring this up all the time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second is we have a donation from the Kunzman family.
Yep, this is actually the Jerome family. She's the power of attorney for her father, Raymond Kunzman. And so this is the second year she's made a donation on his behalf for $1,000 to help welfare families in need. Generally, she likes it for heat, so we generally put it as a, Hartman is where it delivers our emergency oil. So we put that as a deposit in and we pull from that through the year.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept the donation of Raymond Huntsman in the amount of $1,000 for families in need.
Second.
I have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And on behalf of the town, I would like to express our appreciation for the generosity of people like this. Helps other people who are needy out tremendously.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, under appointments, we have none. Approval of minutes from December 11th. Does anybody have any comments? Amendments?
No?
No?
Look good to me.
I'll entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the minutes of Monday, December 11th, 2017, as written.
Second?
I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, under old business, we have Copley update.
And I have nothing new at this time.
Nothing at this particular time.
Aye.
No, okay. All right. Second is a bond reduction for 64 Tide Mill Road.
Okay, this is the location of the new Dance Innovation. It was the warehouse before. They have requested a bond reduction of $16,000 from the existing $21,920 bond, and having the remaining $5,000 held until the spring of 18. That would be for the road work and things. I'll just review the request. They recommend withholding $10,000 for the road as well as some loam and seeding that would need to be done.
Okay. It seems that from the email from Altus, there are certain issues that fall short of what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
And so the recommendation is leaving a bond amount in the amount of $10,000. Does anybody have any comments on that?
No, as far as I know, the planning board didn't discuss it or have any other input on it. So usually we would go along with what our engineer recommends.
Okay, and this is unusual that the bond is on it because it's a site plan, it wasn't a road reconstruction, anything like that.
Okay.
But they had some special driveway stuff to do.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve the bond release of $11,920.20,
So moved.
Second.
leaving a bond amount of $10,000 to be held until spring. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Does anybody have any other old business? they'd like to-
Mr. Thibodeau is here. I didn't have it on the agenda. I wasn't sure what the status was. So he would like to have Van Etten Drive accepted as a town road.
Okay,
The berm, the water remediation at the end of the driveway has not been completed, but it can't be done until the spring. Altus has recommended that that's what be done.
okay,
The bond was reduced last week by the selectmen to $30,000. And I would recommend that that $30,000 stay as a bond until all the work is done.
Can I just add that,
Yep.
Altus recommended $3,000 on that letter.
Okay.
so was it 3 or 30?
We have 30.
Do you have the letter?
Altus is probably attached. No, I don't. Altus is, the new renewal is to 3,000.
Okay,
It's totally up to the board. Last week, we heard a lot of two of the residents with, a minor list of concerns with drainage. So it's totally up to the board.
okay.
The motion last week was reduce it to 30 until these things were fixed.
But even more key is the basic idea of acceptance, because that means it becomes a town road for plowing purposes, and they no longer have the duty to plow it for the winter. And obviously, that's a big deal.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there were any other open items up there other
I
than
think
this.
most of them were probably taken care of. There was like a shed that still had stuff in it, an electrical box, some silt fence.
Right. Which,
It was cleanup
I
stuff.
didn't see the silt fence, nor did Dennis, but I guess one of the owners noticed a silt fence out in the woods somewhere. He can show us in the spring and we'll pick it up.
Minor.
It's very minor.
Yeah,
And
all the other things were minor.
The cul-de-sac plantings, there was plugs,
Okay.
and those haven't been put in. Just, there are like 50 plugs, and Altus wanted that, and to reassure that the seed would take on the disturbed areas where the curbing was installed. Those two came up to $1,000.
Okay.
And also, around the interior of the cul-de-sac, we put in stone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they like it, so in the spring, we'll just put in dirt pack right over it, or take some out and
Okay.
put regular dirt fill in there.
All right.
They were talking about stones going in people's yards, I don't know if you remember that. But that was also $1,000, so the total was $3,000.
Okay. And then whatever this little berm cost.
Right. Well, no, that was actually, the berm was $1,000.
Oh, okay.
What Altus.
Yep. I can also tell you the planning board is discussing with Altus some of the cul-de-sac and wetland plantings, areas where you've had infiltration. Because as Frank Catapano says, and he's right, why the devil would we put wetland type vegetation in areas that are bone dry? What do we think is going to happen?
Right.
So we're
It
trying
becomes poison ivy.
Yeah,
So we're trying to discuss ways to accomplish the same thing with using different species.
We paid I don't know, almost $500 for the seed, the wetland seeding to put in that rain garden, and it's dry.
Bone dry most of the time, and no one's gonna water it.
It won't germinate. It takes, some of those seeds take a year to germinate.
Yeah.
They're just whether they.
So we're trying to work on that regulation to be more practical about it and reduce that type of maintenance. So that actually would help here, you know, the fact that hopefully by that time you'll have a better idea of what to put in there rather than this reactionary type thing. Okay.
So I think you've worked hard and studiously and appeased many of the issues that the other people had when they came here. So I don't have a problem with the $3,000. I think I would. I'd
Yeah,
go
and
along with that.
then of course the key is the acceptance, because that would mean that as soon as we take that action, that we need to get to Jim, and I probably should have mentioned it to him, that that would be an area that they would be responsible to plow.
Mhm.
That would be on our dime after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I would be in favor of letting $3,000 remain.
Is there a copy of
Three is,
Do we have a letter? No?
no, it was an email
I'd like to see
that
the
got
letter.
forwarded to me. No offense to Troy, but I think 3,000 is low
I do too.
until we
Especially
know
without
if
the
this
letter or
berm is gonna work.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're gonna have more than that in engineering to see how to fix it, potentially.
anything. I agree.
I think that's just a little tight.
Yeah, let's give you a chance to see if you have anything from them.
Okay, who did it actually come from?
Dennis.
Dennis Moulton.
Well, I sent it to you as well.
Yeah, here it is. All right, the ground cover plantings remains outstanding. We recall you had planted the rain garden, yeah, we just talked about that, remains outstanding. Catch basin hoods have been installed now. The pavement transition is repaired and acceptable. 3 new items. The disturbed area behind the new curbing has to be hydroseeded. The short portion of the gravel backing in front of house number 12 has not been installed. There's a landscaped island here. It's Altus' opinion that the shoulder must be installed. Reasonable caution should be used to minimize damage to the homeowner's irrigation. And the driveway down to lot 9 needs to have an asphalt berm placed at the top of the driveway to divert stormwater runoff, which is currently causing washouts alongside the driveway. An additional amount of $1,000 should be set aside to ensure this work is complete. The town should retain some of the bond money to ensure completion of the berm mentioned above, the plantings at the circle, growth of the hydroseeded areas, and that the rain garden grows in as planned. All to suggest a bond of $3,000 be withheld for these purposes. They're the engineers, not me.
So they mentioned 2,000 and 1,000, that's 3,000, right? All right.
Yeah, does that help you anymore, or do you still think it's too small?
I think it's a little small. I think it should be 10, hold the thirds. That's what I think.
Anybody else?
I'm not an engineer. Water flows downhill, that's what I know.
I mean, the engineers are recommending 3, Ed. The most I'd want to hold is 5.
I go along with my engineers, I mean, that's what we hire for,
Yeah,
so and I understand your concern too.
If it was going into summertime, yeah, no problem. If it was going into winter, who knows what's gonna happen with the snow and the snow plows.
We're willing to go 5. We're willing to hold the 5.
Now we're responsible for any more than a berm. I mean, we can, the road's
Right.
all been approved. I mean, if he still has complaints, I don't know if there's anything we can do other than, it's been approved, the engineer, town's approved it. And I think the guy's a little bit extreme on his complaints about that.
And I know Troy, if there, and I've known him for a long time, and I do know that there are problems
We'll work with him.
that go above and beyond, that he's always stepped up to the plate. So, If you're willing to go 5, I
We
mean,
do live in Greenland too.
yeah, exactly, I'm willing to abide by that.
Yeah, I think 5 is a reasonable compromise.
Yeah.
And your other question, which is, once we accept it, then that is what it is, and if the plows damage things on the side, that's on us, that's not on them.
Right. Right.
When you say damage thing on the side, what are you referring to?
Well, if during the process when Jim Jones plows, he does some damage to lawns on the side.
Yeah.
I mean, next spring, if there's any repair of that type, that's not on you, that's on Jim Jones.
That's correct.
So acceptance is important, not only to avoid the cost of plowing,
Bond is.
but also springtime repair.
Sure, yeah. Okay. But that sounds
With acceptance,
as a,
5,000 and
Reasonable.
accepted, is that what?
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
make that into a
absolutely.
motion. The motion would be to accept Van Etten as a completed town road, subject to withholding the sum of $5,000 as a bond for the purpose of completing the repairs noted in the letter from Altus dated, I guess, December 24th or something?
21st.
21st. The letter from Altus dated December 21st.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okey doke.
Happy holidays.
You too.
All right, is there any other old business that needs to come up? Okay. Review of town administrator's report. If you don't mind, Karen, if you could comment on the DRA kickoff meeting?
Sure. Yep, on last Thursday, I met with Lionel McEachern, who is the town's representative from DRA, only until the year end because he's retiring. So he met with the contractors, Steve Traub for commercial and Todd Haywood for residential revaluation. They reviewed the contracts. He updated both of the contractors on what would be required by DRA for their USPAP manual, which is how they arrive at the evaluations. The manual, they agreed on the time frame when they would start, reviewed who would be doing the data entry, who would be doing the updating of all the credits and exemptions. 2018 is also our year for that, so I'll be working closely with the two contractors to update those credits and exemptions. Because our representative is retiring, he gave them the instructions on who to send the information to at DRA. They're undergoing a lot of change with staffing. So for the time being, it's going to go to Chuck Reese, who does a lot of the utility appraising. But they will be out there. Any house that's sold within the last 18 months will be visited. They're getting letters in the mail to fill out information about the sale, and those will be evaluated to determine where valuations will change. I've written a press release to get sent out to explain to residents that they can expect to see a 15% to 17% increase in their property value. That does not relate to a 15 to 18% increase in taxes. The tax rate drops as the value goes up, and what happens at town meetings through the deliberative session and then the official ballot is what determines what the tax rate will be.
Any questions?
Or the amount of taxes that will be charged, not the tax rate. We have a $16.64 tax rate. You can expect to see it about $13, but people's bills won't change. Some will go up a little bit, some will go down a little bit, but more than 50% won't see any change.
Right. One of the things they mentioned at the budget committee meeting the other night, the chairman mentioned that that we'd be looking at a 15% tax increase on our, so I just don't think that he quite understands, the whole system. But if you take him aside and just make sure that he doesn't throw that
The
out
chairman,
again.
okay.
All right?
Yeah, and I've got the press release written. I'm going to get it posted into our Facebook page, send it into the newspaper. Just try and get that information out as much as possible so people understand. And we have the same percentage with residential and commercial. So we're not, Portsmouth faced a very unique situation with the last statistical update, that they only increased the values to the residential properties, but not the commercial properties, so that offset that balance.
Right.
Our sales on residential and commercial are both trending at the 86, 87%. So we're not going to see that imbalance. What we will see is some of the bigger homes, the 900 plus homes, have not sold for that much higher than their assessed value. So they will not see, that category of homes will not see a 15% increase. The lower homes, the small ones, the condos, have sold much, much higher.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's all different. It changes every 5 years,
yeah,
what the market is demanding.
okay, comments? Hearing none. You wanted to comment on the recalculated balances at this time?
Oh, okay, yeah, what I did today is with these manifests that were just not approved yet, with the manifest for the current bills, I plugged all those numbers into our 17 expenses as well, to keep a very close track on expenditures. So right now, as of today, we still have another week on a payroll, because even though the payroll will be signed in January, it's a split payroll. We currently have left $313,000 from the $4.1 million.
313?
313,000 from the 4.15 budget. Bills that I know that will come in, like our average payroll is $50,000, $51,000, so $26,000 for payroll. Assessing the monthly New Hampshire retirement insurance, things that I know that are still out there that are coming in is approximately $155,000. So we have 158 leeway right now to end the year. And that's, I don't have the snow bill from Jim Jones. I asked him to get me that. I estimated that one in at 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I estimated 25 more in salt. I think I'm low on the salt, but
Seems to be squeaking out, right?
seems to be squeaking out. I do want permission to send an email out to department heads, no purchases for the remainder of the year that can't be pushed off to 18. Because this is the time of year I start getting calls, how much do I have left, how much do I have left?
Yeah.
None.
No.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't have a problem with that, does anybody else?
And the only thing I would just say, just no non-emergency purchases.
Right, that's what I
Right,
mean.
that's
Any
what-
non-emergency purchases, please delay till 2018.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's fine. Feel better now?
so far, I did when I got all those bills in. I'm like, okay, all right, there's 150-ish.
Okay, good.
If we get a foot this week,
I don't want you losing any sleep over it.
I really shouldn't care less, but I do with my job.
Can't predict what Mother Nature's gonna do, you know?
When it comes down to 0.2% left.
Right.
Right, and if I didn't care, I don't think I'd be, worth doing my job.
Okay, the next is the Police Department Administrative Assistant.
Yeah, Chief Laurent has found a replacement for Carol Smith. Her name is Elizabeth Treader, and she would like permission to have her hired. She'll be 35 hours per week until, if the town budget is approved at town meeting, it would then become full-time.
Right, this is something we've discussed in the past, so.
Yeah, it's, and unfortunately, when it came through the night of the last meeting.
That's my fault, I should have brought it up, it
We
was brought
both
up to me
forgot.
and I totally spaced.
She was
it,
introduced
so.
to us on that Monday, and I'm like, you need permission to do this.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'd almost be willing to let it go full-time even now, because even with the default budget, this is what we'll do.
It's not, I don't know, we don't have the insurance budgeted.
Doesn't matter, we can do transfers.
Okay, if the board wants to,
Do you want to make a motion?
I'm just saying,
the chief is happy with it like this, and the hiree was happy with it like this.
okay,
All right, let's just keep things going the way they're
if
going,
that's,
you know.
yes, but
No bumps in the road is better.
I just want to let it be known that even if we go default, you know, which I hope we don't, but if we do, that's not gonna change my plan. I would be planning to make it full-time at that point, even if it's a default.
Yeah. But we're still on the railroad track, so let's keep it the way it is, and I'll go with the motion to move to approve the hiring of Ms. Treader,
Elizabeth Treader.
okay, as police department assistant,
I'll second that,
okay?
and I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, items 3 and 4 is Primex contribution program.
Yeah, and both of these are basically the same, but I split it up because it is definitely two different programs. Most of the risk pools have done this over the years, and what Primex has offered Greenland is, we were in a 2-year program. For the next 3 years, they've offered a stability that the cap for our for our property liability and workers' comp wouldn't increase over a determined amount. So for workers' comp, a maximum 10% increase is guaranteed. It could be less than that based on our experience, but 10 is the max it would go. And then a maximum 7% on property liability
Is that for the 3 years or per annum?
per year. So for workers' comp, that's an easy one for me because there are no other competitive programs offering workers' comp at this time. So I'm very happy to provide the stability with the workers' comp. I am also recommending that we do the Primex cap program, but I want to be clear or open that there is another public property liability pool being formed. It's an offshoot from, well, some of the people from Property Liability Trust have kind of gone on their own, and they're trying to create their own pool and are in the process of trying to get approved. So I do expect, they're not going to be ready, I don't believe, for 2018 coverages, but they will be for 19.
But we still wouldn't be able to get into that because...
Correct. In 18, they'd be asking us to go out and bid to compete against Primex for property liability, and we would be bound into this 3-year program. I still think it's a good deal, even though we couldn't compete immediately, because a brand new pool, to me, takes a couple of years for it to build up some capital and really understand what their experience rating is going to be.
You're right, because a new pool is a riskier pool.
A new pool is risky because you don't know who you're going to get. You're going to get the people from Primex that got very high rates switching based on their experience. High people jump to the new pool and then their experience catches up with them.
Okay.
So it's totally up to the board, but
Well,
that's why I broke them into 2.
My only concern is, can we sign a 3-year contract without a fiscal funding clause?
Yes, because all it is a fiscal cap program. It's
All right.
not a guarantee for
Could
the
you
coverage.
just hold on 1 second, because I think you two have lost the rest of us.
Oh, fiscal funding, which we'll get into on the different article on here for a lease program, we still do not have to renew. But it caps our, it caps our quote, but we can't voluntarily, we can say we're not going to renew and then go out and look for other coverage. But we can't voluntarily just go back out to bid.
Okay, the basis of this is, we can't do multi-year contracts without permission from town meeting. Okay, you know, when we go with the school and we do multi-year contracts for their union contract, you have to do what's called Sanbornizing a warrant article, telling the people that you're binding them for so many years into the future. Same thing applies with multi-year contracts at a town level, except perhaps in this particular
Right, we
case.
still need to sign the contract every year. So it's not a multi-year contract, all it is a, and how do they call it, a contribution assurance program.
Okay. With that being resolved, I have no problem with this. Primex is certainly the primary game in town. Way cheaper than commercial insurance,
Yes.
maybe 2/3.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on item 4. I'm sorry, item 3, the Assurance Property Liability Program.
I move to approve the town's participation in the Primex Contribution Assurance Program, Property and Liability Program for the next 3 coverage period years.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, the Primex Contribution Assurance Program for Workers' Compensation. Entertain a motion to move to approve the town's participation.
Move to approve the town's participation in Primex Contribution Assurance Program, Workers' Compensation Program for the next 3 covered period years.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
You can just do the signatures now. Yes.
Okay, the next item is the awarding of bids for Willowbrook Avenue.
If the bids were open, the bid document is attached for you with the results. Lyman Construction was the apparent low bidder. We've now received a letter from Underwood recommending the award to Lyman. They've checked the references, they've done work with them several times, and they've recently completed jobs in the same magnitude in Rochester, Farmington, and Portsmouth. And that is based on the base bid amount of $314,490. The one add-on for Willowbrook, which we're not sure what's going to happen yet, we're waiting to hear back from the Wetlands Commission, is bid alternate number 1, which is for the box culvert. That would be add additional $79,500.
Okay, any comments from?
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to accept this bid now and wait to enter into a contract once we have our permit back from DES? Or do you want to reject this and rebid it when we have the permit?
I would accept it. We're not going to sign the contract until that is in place. But it locks in the price.
Yeah.
So that,
And it saves us the expense of rebidding it. There's advertising expenses and
Okay. Do we have any guidance as to when we expect our permit back from DES?
the last we heard from them, they said Ben Dreyer said that he talked to them and they would be taking their full in 90 days.
Okay.
Because our Conservation Commission did send in a letter with requesting the box culvert versus what was designed.
no, I've never heard of Lyman, but apparently the engineer recommends them and done a lot of work around this area. And they're substantially below, in my opinion anyway, Busby,
They were substantially below that, and that's of concern to me. I don't
Yeah, there's a
understand.
$14,000 difference between them and Busby.
Yeah.
But then Busby, the box culvert, he's $19,000 lower. But the bidders were told it would be based on the base bid. So combined, Busby is lower, but the directive was that it was based on base bid.
So what is your concern?
Well, we don't yet know what we're building. We just don't, until we get that permit in hand. And so this bid is a little bit out there as conjecture.
Well, they have the 2 options designed.
I understand, but there's a big, big difference with mobilizing for box culvert and mobilizing for the other.
Correct.
So
I'm just a little bit concerned myself about awarding a contract when I don't know what I'm building.
What would be the drawback? So you're saying to wait until,
Once we have it in hand, just rebid it when we know what we're building. But the risk is, depending upon when that gets out there, if people already have their jobs in hand, maybe the bids become even higher. I don't know.
right,
So it's a calculated risk either way.
Exactly, and my goal to get this done prior to year end was so that we can then encumber the balance in the warrant article of $255,000 for the project.
Well, to me, that's about the only reason to do it.
Well, it's an important reason
that's a
though.
good reason, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good reason.
And the 314 is only for doesn't include the box culvert, so we know that we're going to be doing at least that much. That's the main road of the reconstruction of the road, the removal of the trees, the guardrails,
Yeah, it's fairly
That's gonna
close to the
happen.
estimate, which I guess was somewhere in the 290s.
290.
So the only drawback is that if we didn't do this right now, that the price could go up.
Well, then the warrant article would lapse.
Okay, yeah. That road needs to be done.
Excuse me, are you still deliberating amongst yourselves? Is public comment or involvement
Just
in what you're?
go ahead. What is your name? And
Yeah, my name's David Hagner, I'm from Great Bay West, and I'm just here, I've been at sea for 4 months, and you're probably familiar with me and my issue, but I did key up when you got to this. I didn't expect Willowbrook to be part of the discussion tonight, and I was going to just come in. I had been urged here tonight by a neighbor. I know that nothing on Great Bay West is on the agenda, but I was at some point going to bend an ear just to ask.
Sure, we can bring you up to date.
It's hit the skids, and I'm curious what's happening. Karen, I don't mean to be out of your
No,
field of
that's
vision,
fine.
and I'll move a little closer to you. So yes, if you don't mind, and if you have a moment.
Sure. Basically, it was brought to our attention at the last meeting that the residents residing on Great Bay West needed to go before the planning board to get approval, which they never did, which leaves it out of our hands. And that was a town vote. That wasn't, that was just something that used to be done.
All right.
And so today I got a call from Mr. Schwab on West as well, requesting that the selectmen do a warrant article.
Karen, I had a discussion with him over this, so I'm not
Oh.
sure. Yeah, I don't know that whether you've spoken to him
I did speak
in
to
the last couple hours or.
Yes,
Because this sounds to me like just going down
a rabbit hole.
a rabbit hole. If it's something, what's the sentiment of the board of selectmen? Is this good, just a formality, or do you think that we're going to be mired with the planning board? I got a good vibe last time we were all here together that this thing was going in the right direction, and now I don't know whether it's hit this as the result of the many personalities involved, mine included, or whether it's just,
I would say personalities had nothing to do with it.
good, okay.
As we went through the summer, we had Underwood out there, as you know, and substantial engineering work was done. When we came back with their report, the proposed improvements could not be constructed in the right-of-way that the town owned. As we continued on with our discussions with the Brackett family about a temporary easement, those discussions did not reach fruition. Okay, so we couldn't construct what we needed to construct within the area where we had the right to build it. Then we also looked a little bit further and found that since 2010, when the warrant article passed, that the planning board had not considered this at all.
Okay.
Okay. I would tell you that for any other road coming forward in the planning board, anywhere else in town, the standard is that there is a right-of-way that is 50 feet wide, and then the portion that is constructed, it varies between 24 and 22 feet in width. Okay, but there's usually a 50-foot right-of-way into which you have the area to stack snow, build utilities, all those other things. The Bracketts, the landowners, were completely unwilling to consider anything other than the town would accept what's there today is what's good for the future, and when they wanted to come in and subdivide, it would be an accepted town road. And when that type of an issue was brought to the planning board, they said absolutely not, because that would be violating all of our subdivision standards, all of our road standards. So absolutely not from their point of view. And that's where we hit the skids.
Okay, do you have a recommendation on how the whole thing might be dislodged? I'm gonna be home now for 4 months. I have a little bit of time and disposition to get, to try to work this, or do you think that this is once again,
I think there are ways for everybody to win, okay? And the ways for everybody to win are for, I think, the brackets to understand that if they were to come in and design a road that could be accepted through the planning board, they win in that their land is substantially more valuable.
right?
Okay? Obviously, if we could have something like that constructed, then you folks at the other end of it win.
Right.
Okay? If that would be the best for everyone, because then it's completely according to town standards, could be accepted the same way we just did Van Etten tonight. And then everyone in the future would be better off.
Okay. Would that need 50 feet, are you talking?
I think that could be changed somewhat, but down to 18 would not work.
All right. Do I have it correct that the town nonetheless is ready to build an 18-foot road, but that the caution to the brackets is that this is not a road that will serve your aspirations later? In other words, I know that last time we sat here and we spoke with Underwood, it was down to whether we were going to get a 16-foot road and a 14-foot road. And one of the other property owners said, well, we want a 16-foot road. And I said, well, you know what? We'll take a 14-foot road if that's what it's going to be. And I still maintain that. And it seemed that Tom and Allison also, at that point, they said, we've given what we're going to give. And if a couple of, gestures by the planning board shows us a 14-foot road, in the works, then I'm all for it personally. But if you think that, and it seemed to me that the brackets, that was consistent with what they would accept, but.
During my time on the planning board, I have never seen the planning board accept a road less than 22 feet pavement. Now, could there be something less than a 50-foot right-of-way? That, I think, could be talked about simply because what do we really need to stack snow, put utilities for the number of people we know are going to be there? That, I think, could be talked about. But the idea that what we have there right now could work into the future. The other thing we learned is that this is one of the most vulnerable, if not the most vulnerable, to sea rise.
I'm sorry,
to sea rise, because we've had studies from the Regional Planning Commission talking about the amount that we're likely to see the bay rise. The reason that this would be vulnerable in that location is that the culvert, which has already failed, would be likely to fail again, during high tide times of the year. Okay.
Okay.
So that probably is not something that we should build as is again.
All right.
I guess where we're coming from is Paul is the liaison to the planning board, so he can speak.
Paul, are you on the planning board?
I'm the selectman's rep.
You are, okay. All right.
And as far as we as selectmen are concerned, your next step is to go before the planning board. To come before us, we can't, there's really nothing we can do because the warrant article was stated that.
Okay, understood. And I think I'm a little surprised we're there now having expensed survey work and studies and a design. And, when I left for C back in August, it seemed like we were about ready to award the thing. And
but just so you know, okay, Board of Selectmen's changed, people changed, and we were not aware of what had taken place even before I was on.
I know, and that's the part of the problem, though, Bon, is this road's become a fetish to a certain extent, and I want to get it, And the thing is, though, I did feel that with all parties present here, I don't think anybody who's on the Board of Selectmen now was not here when we all sat together with the Underwood engineer, with the brackets in the room, and at that point, it seemed, granted, the planning board thing, all right, we can go back and, like I said, I think we're well beyond that at this point, but if it's the same type of thing, if you need my deed, here's my deed, we did that. If we need to go before the planning board, I would just kind of like to know that, if we're going to do that, it's not going to mire us in another 10 years of, I felt like, and Paul, you and I have been antagonists on the issue, and the last time we met here, I got a real good feeling of confidence that, and it seemed like everybody in the room was ready to go on the thing, so I'm,
Part of the problem was with the brackets gave us a draft understanding that they wanted the town to sign,
Mhm.
that no matter what we did to the road, it would be considered up to town standards for a subdivision.
for subdivision, okay, I see that problem.
They wanted driveway aprons for specific
Understood,
lots.
okay.
They wanted a bunch of trees taken down.
Do you think that there's somewhere that the middle will meet on this, if there?
I would hope that as neighbors, that you could raise some of these things in a way that we can't raise them.
Okay, understood. All right, so let me find it, but maybe after the holidays, we're gonna be gone for a little while, but let me go talk to Tom and see what I can.
Right, the other thing you probably saw that we did do was we did continue to treat it as an emergency.
I appreciate that, yeah. If you would, keep doing that for as long as,
Right, because we don't want to see the unfairness of having anyone stranded down there.
Understood, okay. All right, well, let me see, I'll talk to, if I can find an opportunity to,
Believe me, we know this has been a quagmire,
yeah.
honestly. And there's nothing we like better than to get this behind us.
Oh, no, I know.
But, when things are brought to our light that we didn't know about, we have to act on it. We just
Okay.
have to, so.
All right,
I would say the planning board's your next step.
okay, so,
I would love to find a way for everyone to have more value down there than less.
we appreciate it.
Just a point of information, Paul. Who can go to the planning board? Does it have to be a homeowners association, or can an individual go?
There is no association.
No, I know, but they might reform if that's what it requires. What does it require?
In this case, if you look at it, if you go in front of the planning board, you're asking them to approve something that affects property rights. So you have to have everyone in front of you whose property rights would be affected. If you don't bring the brackets in and deal with some of the issues and property concerns that they have raised, effectively the planning board couldn't do anything. No one wants to do anything to take anything away from the existing owners.
Right.
Okay, that's not it. It's just finding a way to get this area down to those homes and at the same time make the remaining bracket land more valuable.
Can the planning board override the town meeting vote of as is, where is?
Well, the point is, it was also subject to their approval.
Right,
They can simply refuse to approve.
okay.
And again, what you would have from most members of the planning board, I think, is they would say, every time a road comes into us for approval, doesn't matter where it is elsewhere in town, we have always held fast to the 50-foot in right-of-way and 22 or 24 feet in paved width. Now, there may be factors here that are special.
Right.
To where something else could be done, provided that the performance of that type of a right-of-way can be achieved. 16 feet, 18 feet is not going to cut it. Okay, it doesn't have to be paved to 50. If you take a look at Caswell Drive, for example, that's a 75-foot right-of-way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an unusual thing on the other end. But there are other rights-of-way that aren't as clear as to what they are. They could be less than 50, so long as there's adequate storage for snow,
Yeah.
so
I think
long
we
as...
have one or two that are 35s.
Yeah. And places to put utilities and high enough so that when the tide comes in, it's not going to obliterate the improvement.
To start off, you may want to talk with the planner, just so you can get a feel of which direction to start working.
Yeah, and the planner is our consultant. He comes in from Hollis. His name is Mark Fougere.
Okay.
So he's neutral. He's actually the chairman of the board of selectmen in Milford. Okay, so he brings in, experiences from other communities. And I would echo, please talk to him.
Okay, I would like to know that when we come to the planning board, that, Paul, for instance, we're gonna need, you have a lot of weight and a lot of influence in this subject. So as much as I talk to him, I kind of feel like I'm gonna need to satisfy your, more than anybody, you're you're the key guy here, and
I understand that everyone will look to me to explain the history of this unique location.
oh gosh, I wouldn't even bother. That's just too painful. But
Yes.
but the one thing I do recollect, though, I forget the gentleman who was from Underwood here. What is his name?
Phil McDonald.
I'm sorry.
Phil McDonald.
Phil McDonald. I do recollect him saying that there are things he could do with the 16-foot paved area that he couldn't do with the 14-foot, and that was the big thing, and it was, unless the brackets seated a little bit more, it was gonna be 14-foot width. And my understanding was we eventually at least got to 16 with the brackets. Is that not?
What I'm guessing is, they feel like things are being taken from them. Okay? And I would like to frame it a different way, that when something comes forward here that could eventually be really approved, it makes what they have much more.
I've seen it, everybody sees it that way, and I can't understand why they don't. I would agree with you, but I don't know. I think that ownership that's been in this town for that long, sometimes, and I would even trust that maybe over the years in family lore, there are cases where, things come dressed up and they turn sour. And so I'm only gonna just confer, upon, or extend to him a certain amount of, benefit of the doubt that whatever. I mean, because he says this road's been an issue since 1783. I mean, in one form or another. So, or some date way back there. But anyway, which, leads me to want to have a little more fun with it too. But I would rather just, and you guys would too, I'm sure, just put it to bed. And Karen, you said that it was topic one when you first came to work.
I came to a meeting before I was hired, a selectmen's meeting, just to listen to the board and see what was going on and the tenor, to see if it was something I really even wanted to interview for. And that was the subject of the meeting.
Yeah.
And there was only 3 selectmen at the time, and it was none of you, but it was like, okay.
Well, I do think that Chip's suggestion, if you can talk to Mark Fuzier and get together with him, he'd probably give you the right course of action to take.
Okay, all right. All right, we're probably going to be, elusive until after, the new year, but I'll probably touch base, Karen, get some phone numbers and stuff and see what we can do over the...
And please, and for us, obviously, we're really busy until we get through deliberative session.
Right, I didn't even want to cut in here. You guys are doing real work, but I appreciate it. And thank you for as much as you've given me. There was a talk of putting in a warrant article, and that just sounds to me like a bad idea, just because I would rather hew to the old existing warrant article.
My gut instinct says, I'm not telling you what to do.
Right.
Well, the other part of it is, even if you did, or if there were a warrant article, that doesn't override the fact that it still has to go to the planning board, because there's a statute, 67440.
Right.
That says unless it's been part of a subdivision plan, the planning board gets a voice. That's it. And so, that's it.
Okay, now that's interesting because, it does come from a 1929 subdivision plat that Tom Brackett's grandfather laid out. So, would that have...
The reason that was difficult is, for many, many years since, in recording after recording after recording, they said it was a private road. Okay, we showed the history of all this coming forward. Every conveyance out from the Bracketts indicated private, private, private. They kept saying private, private, private. And so if it had been accepted as a public road in 1929 or 1939, we'd be having a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
But all the way through, with every conveyance, private.
Yeah. Well, then there's the action in the 1992 Forest where it was accepted. And I mean, I don't care to, I really do want to go about this the easiest possible way. And at that, we're kind of, I'm hearing Willowbrook and I'm thinking, probably the best value to the town is to bid both roads out together, right?
And we did. We
So-
have the prices for West. It did go out to bid with it. At this point, if the selectmen approve the base bid from Lyman, it's just Lyman. But I can tell you that for the bid summary, the reconstruction of Great Bay Drive West, the low bid with Lyman is $218,397. And if it's just a pavement only, it's $62,000.
Okay, so 218 to get a road, a right road. But
Yes.
that's what, like a six, what did their design come back with? Is it, I mean, there is a design, and so I'm thinking that if we go to the planning board, I would want to go to the planning board with the design that's already been rendered.
Frankly, that design is completely public, and you can have a copy of it.
Okay, but it would seem to be more difficult for the town, the planning board, and all parties to all of a sudden say, no, that design is no good for us. So I would hope that taking that design before the planning board would be a mere formality, but you're saying probably not, or,
Well, it all depends because the design that they have there can't be built without Brackett cooperation.
okay, but hasn't he seen that design?
Oh, yes.
And doesn't he like it?
He likes the design,
He likes it, but he's,
but in the he'll approve it if we'll add these
so he's,
driveway
okay, so
aprons.
we're horse trading now.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And that's where we said, yet.
Okay, understood. All right, let's see what we can do after the holiday. Thank you very much for your time. I didn't mean to cut into your meeting, but I guess maybe, I hope it was time well
We
spent.
did have a
We'll
live
see.
audience today.
Thank you.
You have a happy new year.
Yes, all the, thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Have fun,
All the
everybody
best.
here.
Cheers.
Okay, let's get back to Willowbrook. So, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bid from Lyman, if that is
Right,
So
this is not the
desired.
contract, this is just the bid.
right.
Okay, I'll move to approve the bid for Lyman Construction for roadway improvements to Willowbrook Ave in the base bid amount of $314,490.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion passes.
Okay. Well, where you had that opposed before, I'm like, I'm not getting a yay or nay.
No, I gave my reservations, but
Okay,
it's more important to maintain the encumbrance.
yeah.
Which we'll move to next. I'll move to encumber the balance for $255,303.66 in Article 13 for road improvements in the 2018 for the Willowbrook Ave project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and the balance of that funding, I mean, obviously this is 255 and project at this point is 314, potentially up to 380. We had budgeted in 2018, 75,000 to do Tuttle Lane. When we got that extra bonus from the state for highway block grant
Yeah.
funds, the board voted to move Tuttle Lane up because that was an extra at 72,000 or 75,000. So we were able to move that up, but it was after the budget was, proposed and
Right.
developed. So that 75,000 can then be used for Willowbrook.
Okay,
And it would cover both, it would cover the balance of the 12,000 plus the culvert.
okay.
And get us to the same point we expected to get at the end of 2019.
At the end of 2018.
2018.
Yes.
There is no funding right now for Great Bay Drive West.
Right. Yep. Okay. Okay.
That would, I mean, there is funding in the budget for other paving. It can be, dedicated from there, or the selectmen can authorize withdrawal from the capital reserve fund. But right now, there is no dedicated funding for it.
Okay, anything else? Let's move on to the proposed warrant articles.
Okay, I added one tonight that wasn't in your packets that I got from the fire chief this evening. And he has two options he's presenting. This is to replace the air packs for the fire department. The total cost is $182,278 if he were to do a one-time purchase. And he would take that out of his SRF, which currently has a balance of 191. So it's tight, but it would then start to rebuild. The other option that the company has offered him is to do a 3-year lease purchase. This brings in that fiscal funding clause. So the first year we would be raising and appropriating $60,760. We would be purchasing all 24 air packs and then authorize the withdrawal from the ambulance special revenue fund over a 3-year period not to exceed $187,801. And the fiscal funding clause shows that year 2, that cost would be $62,582. Year 3, because it's a 3% escalation on the balance, The year 3 cost would be $64,459, and the total cost with the lease purchase would be $187,801.
Okay, first question. Given what we've learned with the fire department itself and the reduction in volunteers, do we need 24 or could we cut it back to 20?
That would be a question for the chief. We currently have 24.
Yes. But then, as we're changing our staff, could we reduce it slightly and gain this and have the same basic protections in place? I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd have to ask him.
But since they're almost $8,000 apiece, that makes a difference.
Right.
I can find out for you.
That to me would be important because if we were saving $30,000 off of this, I'd be more inclined to do it as an outright purchase. And you know, and not have to bear the increased cost of the lease payments.
Let me check with him.
Right, and he told me if there was any questions to give him a call.
I have a question on the lease part. The further to authorize the withdrawal from the ambulance special revenue fund. I thought that was only for vehicles.
No,
It's not, okay.
for the fire, it's equipment and
okay.
vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph is 767. Let me just look on this. I got it.
Got it?
95, no? 95.
Ralph is 235-7676.
Is there anything else that's gonna be required out of that SRF?
3,000 for the ambulance billing.
That's it?
Hi, Chief. We're talking about your Scott Air Packs right now. I've got you on speakerphone with the board. The proposal is for the replacement of 24. Paul has asked that with the change in the department and the reduction in volunteers, do you need 24 or can that be reduced to a number like 20 or a different number?
Counting, sorry. We should be able to drop that to 20, but I need to go through the numbers.
Okay. And I've written up the 2 articles based on your discussion with me earlier tonight. The first article is just to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the $182,278 for the replacement of 24 Scott Air Packs and authorize that withdrawal from the SRF.
Special revenue fund, yeah.
And then the other option would be the 3-year lease purchase to vote to raise and appropriate $60,000 the first year for the 24 Scott Air Packs, authorize the withdrawal. I'm going to put over a 3-year period from the ambulance special revenue, total amount not to exceed $187. Year 2 cost would be $62,582. Year 3 cost $64,459 for a total cost of $187,801.
Yep, and when I was told earlier today, the impacts are going up more than 3% a year to replace.
Okay.
So the 3% is just, if we, either way, but the 3%, if we wait till next year, it's just gonna go up that 3% anyway.
Right. Can we do 12 this year and 12 next year?
It just puts us out of a sequence, rather not.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the chief while I have him?
That answer your question?
It seems to me that, I think, are you saying, Ralph, that we're safe at 20?
We should be safe at 20. I just need to go through the numbers like Ken Paul, and we'll figure that out. I should be able to give Karen the answer to that probably by noontime tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't want to shortchange ourselves, but I do believe we're going to be able to do that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's fine. Any other
All right.
questions?
No.
Okay, all right, thanks, chief.
Thank you.
That gives him more than a $30,000 cushion in that account, which makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I would go on with 20 and buy them outright. Be done with it.
All right.
Okay. So if he approves, if he says 20 is fine, just readjust that and plug that article in as.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll bring it to 151 roughly
What to buy?
to buy.
Yeah.
On the last page, it says this is a Massachusetts state bid price. Would there be sales tax in that too? And if there
No,
were-
because they'd be delivered to New Hampshire.
Okay, so it would be waived, all right, thank you.
Good question, though.
Yeah, I don't know, $182,000, you get taxed on that. That's up.
Yeah, everything about this thing adds up.
Yeah, it's.
Right, I know.
Why
Okay.
it's expensive.
Okay,
So do we need to vote on that, or do we just do that?
I just need the direction on, is this going onto the warrant? So it sounds like it is at the lower amount, as long as he says yes.
yeah, it just seemed like,
Okay. And if I tell him that's the only way it's going on the warrant, he'll say, I'll take 20. If we have to do 4 next year, we'll do 4 next year.
20 should work anyway. And one of those are just spares that aren't even on the trucks.
Okay. All right, so what I've done for the proposed warrant at this point, just the deadline for warrant articles is 9th, I think,
right?
Tuesday, week from Tuesday, anyway. And then we have public hearings, so we have to, and we have no petition warrant articles submitted as yet. So Article 1 obviously would be the election of the officers. There's 4 zoning articles as of right now. Article 6, the bond article, has to be the first one. So this is as proposed by the library trustees. So I just need authorization from the board to include it on the warrant. The board doesn't have to vote to recommend or not recommend today. They can do that at the next meeting. My question, and you may know, is can the board insert a warrant article that they don't recommend?
Sure.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
Because I do remember back last summer when the library trustees first came to the board agreed to support the proposal for the new library.
Right, the idea is get it to the people.
Right,
Yeah, that was what I understood too. was,
right.
You know, not so much the board supports it, but, you know,
That-
support.
That you would put it onto the
process.
warrant and not make them do a petition.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
And this needs a 3/5
yes.
ballot vote.
Yep.
Because it's bond.
No, because we're SB2, otherwise it would
Well-
need 2/3.
That, but also, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Then the net budget is the 2.55894. That's the appropriation, and that's not going to show that number. It's just, I just have it there to show you what the impact is on the tax rate. The net budget is the appropriation minus the revenues.
Okay,
So it is 4458347 as of right now, if the budget committee doesn't make any further changes, and they didn't seem like they were going to. Last week was like simple.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna make any changes on the town budget.
Yeah, they
They're
didn't really seem like there was
working
much of
hard on the School
anything.
budget right now.
Yep.
You know what you do?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then Article 8 is, and these numbers can all be changed, the selectmen can move all these things around, was the Keno games.
Mhm.
And we have to hold a separate public hearing on that. So that will be when we determine if we're going to meet on February 19th or 20th. February 19th is President's Day. So whether or not we're going to meet that night, which sometimes we have, or the next night, because the public hearing for the Keno has to be between 10 and 30 days prior to the official ballot date. So it's like that's the window that they gave you.
Right.
So that's the Keno one. Fire station roof at 75,000.
I want to discuss that a little bit, because I looked at Jim's structural report, and I got some budgetary type figures from a couple contractors to do those repairs, and they run on an average about 15,000. I don't know if we want to go ahead and do those structural repairs
At the same time.
at the same time.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to do the cement floors right away, but I definitely get the girders that are cracked, and we re-weld it up and paint it over.
Well, I guess to me, preserving what we have there structurally, fine. Okay. Adapting it to a particular use, premature. Okay. So fixing the roof, making sure you have a stable structure, okay.
That's what I understood you were looking for, nothing cosmetic now until we figure out
Right,
what's
no,
going
no
on.
windows, doors, or other things that might change if it were adaptively reused.
This is basically the steel girders that he found that had cracks in them, and he recommended they get welded up.
So it's structural.
Structurally, yeah.
So if you've got somebody mobilized there capable of doing all that repair anyway, you might as well get it done.
So I got two figures, one said between 10 and 20, the other one said 15, so I think that leaves about 15.
So change the 75,000 to 90,000?
I would say.
So long as our goal is that preservation, I'm okay with that.
Right. And I am too.
Okay, then 75,000 for design engineering of a new fire station?
Mhm.
Yeah, we've got to start the discussion somewhere.
Yeah.
This would just raise the money in that if the money is approved, then it becomes a board decision. Do you want to go out to bid now for an engineer?
Right.
You know, it doesn't lock you into actually doing it until you see if the money even passes.
Okay.
Oh, it's not Rob forgetting the Shelter Logic building.
The Crasco Field building.
I'd like to talk a little more about that.
About what?
The Crasco Field building.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, first of all, I don't like the idea of bringing the revolving fund down to $1,000.
Right.
Okay,
But that had been requested for me to put that into the article and then,
I understand. I just think it misunderstands what the revolving fund is for. Okay, the revolving fund is supposed to be there as contributions from parents as users to pay for referees, bats, balls, consumables, all that stuff. Because you guys don't remember what it was like in the days before when we used to have discussion. Can you get one more year out of those bats? Do you really need 9 new soccer balls? You know, that kind of stuff. And that's why the revolving fund is there. It is not about capital improvements. Okay, it's not about that for Maloney Field, Crasco Field, or anywhere else. It's supposed to be a source of cash so that they can go out as a rec committee and get what they need for consumables on a recurring basis, and that the fund will maintain itself by contributions from parents. If you bring this down to $1,000, for them to be able to continue to run their program, you'll have to double the prices of each program.
right, because the money comes in, the money goes out for the program prior to the registrations coming in.
Aaron,
We buy the
Aaron and I talked
t-shirts and
about
all
this
that
today, too, yeah.
ahead of time.
I don't think I don't think people realize
No, what it's for. and
what
how
it's for, so.
Right. And it has maintained about
Not
a
that it can't be-
$60,000 balance for several years.
But it's not that it can't
growing.
be used for this. It
No.
could be used for it.
Right, we
It
did
just
check the
shouldn't-
wording in the
shouldn't,
warrant.
Right,
We checked the warrant article, and it could be used, but it doesn't need to be used.
right.
And again, I think 60 is also too high, because normally, at least in many years past, it has used $30,000 to $35,000 on a revolving basis. That's what they've actually expended each year, I think.
It is, and they bring in 30, 35, they spend 30, 35.
And that's what the revolving part is supposed to be.
Yep.
So if you bring it down into the 35, 40 range, that's okay, because then you don't have to go to the parents and double their prices. Okay, and every program that's out there for the kids can be maintained, that's okay. So bring it from 60 down to 40, that's okay, you know?
So you're saying to use, it makes sense to use maybe half of that.
Or third, either 20 or 25, something in that
I
range.
think 20 makes sense to me because that's approximately what the men's softball league pays to rent Crasco Field. And they're the predominant user of Crasco Field.
Okay.
So if we're okay with that kind of discussion, the next part, 60 grand for an equipment building?
Mostly because of the electrical costs.
Yeah, you got 3 phase out there, I think.
It's the big electric boxes and stuff that power all the lighting.
So we're renewing electrical?
No, we have to, that all has to be removed and then replaced.
Okay. And is it 60 because we're talking about a cinder block building?
Yes.
Does it have to be cinder block?
No.
Because-
I asked what was recommended, what the property maintenance person wanted. He said replace as is with cinder block, so he wrote up a.
So the question is why cinder block versus wood?
Yeah.
The cinder block would last forever. How long, I mean, how long?
Nothing lasts forever.
Well, I
Take care
know,
of it.
but I mean,
Yeah,
how
save it,
long, we've got some wood building, like the one out in back of the town hall here. Like the one up at the dump. How long did that last?
That was 86.
That was 86?
The
That
one that
lasted
we're
quite a long
replacing
time.
now.
So
There's
that's
not a lot of maintenance.
No.
that's
Right.
30 years.
Yeah.
And I just am having a hard time for an equipment building spending 1.5 times of my first house cost. I'm getting old and slow too, you know? I mean,
Well, actually, believe it or not, 3 times what my first house cost.
yeah.
Almost as much as my first house.
Yeah. Well,
I just think the number's too high.
Do we have a bid on, do we have bids on this building?
No, we
or is this
don't. We just have a rough estimate.
Rough estimate from property maintenance supervisor? Yeah, that seems.
all right, so if we want to
You
steer
can
them
change the
in,
number, you
if
know.
we want to steer them in the direction of wood, the cheaper or less expensive, don't say cheaper, but
Well, to me, if I put 40,000 towards this and got 20,000 from the revolving fund, I'm gonna be a lot happier with a net 20 to taxes.
yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
And I don't think that's shortchanging the facility.
okay. I agree with that. It's common sense to me, really. It's a no-brainer. We need
I don't think
to
it
just
should all come out.
let Bob know that anyway. Crasco,
Right, yeah. I've got to put all these together.
yeah.
Because he has a copy, the rest of the budget committee does not have a copy of this. He knew that it was prepared, so he asked me for a copy.
Okay.
He got the whole caveat. Some of these you might never see again. Don't go running around and making signs or.
Don't change Crasco Field to Sunset on his copy though.
So, do people think I'm being unrealistic here, or is this?
No.
better?
No, I think what Paul probably did is went out and says, we'll do it the same thing we got out here.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just want to pay 60,000 for that.
Nope, good observation.
Okay. The next one is fire vehicle. This is the pickup truck that was recommended in MRI's report that it be replaced this year. Initially, the chief had said he'd replace it next year. It's up to you. It's the utility vehicle.
Questions on that? All set with that?
Well, if
that's
that's coming under that SRF, how much, I thought there was only,
So minus 290,000?
we were only leaving a little bit into it. The
Right.
1,000 was the first thing, I don't know how this was gonna come out.
I know
Oh, yes, yeah, I've got 191, so I think 191 is the correct balance, not 291.
191?
And we really don't have the full 35,000.
Right.
No, not if we're gonna take 180 or try and take 150 out of it.
I've only seen a couple bills on the truck we got now, and it's been under $2,000, so I'd go another year with it.
I would say we'll take another year.
Yeah.
Consensus?
Is it high mileage? Is it
No.
It's not
It's
useful.
typical fire truck, it sits, hurry up and wait.
Well, if we're working from the 190 balance, spending 150 for the air packs, we can't afford this.
Right.
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 Unless we
You can't afford
taxation it.
everything, yeah, for the fire station.
So therefore, if the 190 figure is correct, I think that's what we all agree. If it's 290, then we would look at it again, right?
I wouldn't look at it again at all
Give it another year.
next year.
That's my,
If
that's
that-
personal
if that-
opinion. I
The
I
only
want
other,
to-
Chief is fine with it either way.
so if he's fine with it for another year, then I'm
Yeah.
fine with it for another year.
Yeah, he was fine with it for another year.
Okay, then it's done.
Excellent.
Okay.
So we're just canning that.
It's like a
Yeah.
1936 Dodge.
Now, the next articles are deposits into capital reserve funds from fund balance. The fund balance available estimated at the end of this year, that should be 17, 1.844. Because I expect surplus from 2017 is nothing. You know,
Right.
maybe 100,000, maybe 150, but I expect it to be like minimal.
And that's right, lab should be zero.
Yeah, it's gonna be zero. That's what I've estimated. And I estimate my revenues will come in approximately $75,000 ahead of what we estimated at tax rate setting in October.
Are you getting requests for tax prepays?
The tax collector has, I've referred all calls to her. I'm
Yes,
not
she
sure
has.
what, the town did vote back in, I forget the year, to allow prepayments,
Okay.
but I don't know that she has agreed to do that.
I
Well,
think she has said that the state law says she can't do it.
no, that's wrong. She can put them into a designated account. They can't be spent into our next budget. They have to be put aside essentially in trust for the proper year.
Right. She does not want to do that.
Then I'll be quiet.
Well, no, you don't have to be quiet, no. Don't be quiet. If it's something that should be done, it's something that should be done.
It's optional,
It is absolutely optional.
right?
It is, you're sure, because what she had told me is she called the state, and the state said that she couldn't do it. So, my thing is that I'll do whatever is the right thing to do for the town, but we have to stay within the law.
Yeah, and
So
the
I will
answer
have
is-
her double check on that.
If the question is, can I take double payments now and use them in next year's budget? Then the answer is no.
Right.
Can I take double payments and put them aside in essentially a trust fund? The answer is yes.
And increase the bonding amount being held.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, do we want to do
Right, the
that?
selectmen could vote right now to authorize the tax collector to take payments.
Okay,
It doesn't require her to do that, but the governing body or the legislative body can vote to say,
but she could still turn around and say no, right? Because we have no authority.
We have no authority over
We
that.
can't-
Would be anyway.
The only reason I would encourage her to think about it is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Right.
Okay?
her concern is the bookkeeping part of it, and keeping that segregated and bonded. The forms that she has to fill out for DRA for the state have, 2000, and they only have the 3 years. Currently, they'd have the 17, 16, and 15s. There's no place to even put what she had collected in advance. She just thinks it would be a lot of work, and it would be a little tricky. It
Yep.
only impacts residents whose tax bill currently is greater than $10,000.
All right, so she's only had, what, one or two people that have...
Yeah, I know I've only forwarded her a couple.
Not very many. But if people learned of this, though,
Right, but it would
It'll
have
be
to be
what?
paid by
Well,
Friday.
they are, and it was in the Union Leader Sunday.
It's been splashed all over TV.
Yeah.
yeah. So would that turn out to be a nightmare for her, or,
She thinks that, I think it would be very difficult between her and Liz to try and, because the selectmen create a warrant and tell her, collect this much in taxes.
Mhm.
Her and Liz reconcile, this is how much you were told to collect, this is what you've got, this is what's due. And they reconcile that all the time.
Mhm.
So now all of a sudden, we told you to collect this and now you've collected this. Where is this? Well, that's next year's.
The answer is it goes into a trust fund.
Yeah.
And when the next warrant comes out, you go to that fund and pay what you have.
Right.
but again, instead of nightmare of paperwork, you make it sound simple, but
It is additional paperwork.
It's only simple in concept. I have to admit, it would be a hassle from a paper point.
Particularly if you only get like 3 of them or something.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most towns have said no. Some towns have said yes, we have always taken it. We take prepayments after the first half bill. A lot of times people will pay their whole tax bill in the spring and not have to pay it at the end of the year or have to pay. That's why in the manifest you see all these like $3, $4, because since that rate dropped the penny, people that paid the full year at the first bill are getting their overpayments of.
So what is the advantage of us doing this?
Well, the advantage is for the people who have over a $10,000 tax bill.
Then they
No,
can
I'm
write it.
talking about for the town.
There's no advantage to the
No
town.
advantage to the town, then I wouldn't be for it. If it's gonna be that much more of a burden for,
No advantage.
But they start beating down the
More
door
work
and
and
look
more
at it.
right, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's not
There's
like
only
the
4
old
more
days where
days
you
for
get
them to
10,
do
12% interest. We get, what, 0.5%?
Yeah, right.
Right. Right, it's not an advantage to the town, it's a tax write-off for those residents with high tax bills.
Well, then, if it's not an advantage to the town, I'm not. Personally, and believe me, it's not because,
No, I understand. I'm not trying to create a lot of hassle either.
It's not an advantage to the majority of the town,
right,
so.
Right.
if
Oh, no, it's
It's
a
just
small
more work for
percentage.
There's a dozen people in the help that are gonna do it.
okay, all right, that settles that. Now, back to the road improvement fund.
Okay, so available is 1.8 million. I don't recommend that the town ever go below 1.5 million. So that leaves $350,000 roughly max to be used to deposit into any of these trust funds or purchases, and even that's being generous. 1.6 million if you had 250 to play with.
I would think 250
Would be the max.
yeah.
Now,
So,
when you say that, our gross budget or our gross collections between town and city together are roughly 15 million, and that's why you're down to 1.5? Okay.
Yep.
In other words, 10% of our total gross obligation.
Right.
Okay.
and our revenues are high, so it's, I mean, even for our 4 million, it's, 2.5 is all we're really collecting, the rest is revenues in.
Now, DRA recommends anywhere between 6 and 17, so 10 is conservatively in the middle.
We worked hard to get to 1 million, and then we had a couple really good years. But if you kept it at 1.6, that gives you 250,000, which could be used either to offset tax rate or appropriate into any of these special.
I think 250,000 is a logical
Max.
figure to put in, yeah.
Yeah, and we've been doing 25 into the transfer station, 20, what are they doing? 25 into CRF is 50, right there.
Well, there is no question, if we kept a fund balance of $1.5 million plus, if either the library or the fire station within these next couple of budgets pass, that's definitely going to help us with our rate.
Yes.
So that's the best reason to do it, because we know we have these 2 large purchases being considered. And if they both pass, then we have our best bonding face forward.
Right, and we have the early county tax, so this cash flow helps us.
Okay.
All right, so road improvement fund. Last year we put 50,000 into the road improvement fund.
Yeah, with all of our machinations, what do we have in there now? What will we have if all these machinations work out? Because what you could do,
That's one of the lists I didn't do.
the reason I'm saying is, if you decided to take Portsmouth Ave Capital Reserve, which is a road issue,
Right, Portsmouth Ave, that one is to appropriate, it currently has 6,739. We're looking to close that out.
I understand, and putting in the general fund is what you have to do in that warrant article, but you could
Yep.
reappropriate it to the road improvement.
Exactly, and that's what I have,
Yeah,
those
that's
2 in a row.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
bottom one is discontinuing it, and then the first one on the next page is appropriating that from the 18
so now we know
surplus.
that we're putting in 6,377.39.
Right.
Okay, fine. So to me, logically, I would put those early on in the warrant, let them pass.
Okay. Yeah, these are requests from the trustees, so that one, discontinuing mosquito, it's $7,000, $7,500, we've never used it ever. West Nile and Tripoli aren't the threats that they used to be.
Right.
Like they were saying, it's made $7, the trustees say it's made $7 in interest, and they pay like 15 for every annual
Right.
update. They said that was crazy. And I did confirm with the mosquito control contractor that if there's an emergency and they do the perimeter spraying at the schools, they include it right in our 20,000.
Okay.
So that was that.
Yep.
All right, so put those early. And
Okay,
that would just lapse.
now just language here on getting rid of the Dearborn Road project.
Yes.
Does that one technically have to go back to general funds to be reappropriated?
No. This was through the auditor, and the auditor drafted the way it needed to be written to see if it would raise it to the road improvement. Right, appropriate from fund balance to road improvement CRF. Because it's currently sitting in our fund balance right now.
Oh, okay.
It's a capital project that lapsed out this year because it's all done.
Mhm.
So they lapsed it to fund balance, and now we have to appropriate it from fund balance to the trustees of the trust funds.
And of course, fund balance is general fund, so it's essentially, they're saying it got there by lapse, and so now you're reappropriating.
Right,
Okay,
back to
fine.
the trustees of the trust fund.
Okay, so I would put that article next, after the other two. Because now we know we'll have essentially 27,939 for road improvements, just by moving money.
Yep.
That's good, great start.
Okay. Stipend?
That's a request from the trustee of the trust fund to increase their bookkeeper stipend from from 1,000 to 2,500.
That's a little more than a 2% increase, but it's a story in that.
There was a request from Mr. Rugg.
Yeah, believe it or not, the Mr. Rugg. But I do know, she works hard. I mean, she really puts in a lot of hours. She's done a great job. What's the impact on the tax rate?
Not a
Can't
nine,
go down
doesn't
that
yet.
way, right?
2,500 is .003.
Right.
So it's 0.0025.
I'm more concerned about when the treasurer reads that, the town treasurer. The town treasurer, for being responsible for weekly deposits and controlling $15 million, you know, as opposed to the trustee of the trust funds, which deals with a monthly statement. So I have a problem when we're getting fairly close to what we're paying the town treasurer. That's my issue. Either we're grossly underpaying the treasurer, or maybe they say we're grossly underpaying the trustee's treasurer. The workload of the two functions do not match.
Do not match.
Well, we have we're appointing a town treasurer this coming year, right?
Yep.
And we're gonna have to.
We'll work on that in January. It's silly for us to even put out an ad for it or anything yet, because it doesn't start until March.
Right.
But also in our mind, we're budgeting in the range of 6,000.
No. I think we budgeted 10.
Yeah, that was a little more than.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was budgeted at 10.
So that kind of takes trustee of the trust fund thing versus the treasurer out of the picture.
You're paying them roughly a quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, this is not
Okay,
the gold to die on
guys,
any event.
Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd say,
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna abstain from this because he's a friend of mine, all right? So I'm not making any vote on this one way or another.
I'm a little worried about the precedent, but, I could go up to, I mean, to double, more than double.
Right, it's currently 1,000.
I mean, we had the old argument about you knew what you were getting paid when you took the job.
Right. I kinda think the precedent was set with the fire chief, though.
Well,
Not that that's a bad thing, I'm not saying that in a negative light at all,
You don't have to have the article in there at all if you don't want. This was just a request through the trustees.
So right now, they're making 1,000.
Yeah.
And they want 2,500.
Right now, they're making,
I thought,
right, okay, yeah.
Actually, raise it to 1,500 would be a pretty good increase.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be all right.
1, 2, 3, okay.
Okay. Okay. Establish coastal resilience zone?
Yep, and this is up to you guys. This is one of the RSA 79E things that the town is authorized to do. And I was told to look at what the options were for the town. And this was recommended through, or is part of recommendations through the coastal zone management master plan that's being worked on. So this would be to adopt 79E to establish a coastal resilience incentive zone. The zone is based on that 2016 report that shows that section of the town that is considered coastal risk. And then if approved, then the town can then, and they don't have to, they may, grant tax relief to qualifying structures that make an improvement. For example, and I'll use Paul's house just to throw something out there. He's on the bay. If this is adopted and his house is absolutely in that coastal zone, he said, all right, I'm going to lessen the impact to the property here and I'm going to put my house on stilts. I'm going to raise it up 10 feet. It's going to cost me $50,000. He can then come to the town and say, what kind of tax credits can you give me for the $50,000 I'm going to put in to help this? And the board can then may or may not grant it. They can say, all right, we're going to give you $10,000 off the value of your property for 5 years in a row. Or we're going to, take $2,000 off your property once. Thanks very, But it gives the selectmen the opportunity to grant a waiver.
To encourage also to move a well, to move a septic system.
Right.
Or to perhaps deal with Great Bay East and West.
Right. It doesn't make you do anything, it just authorizes it. Personally, I think it's one of these that we adopted the farm one a few years ago for historic barns and nobody has taken advantage of it. Looks really good for the town that we're being proactive and nobody may ever apply for it. But it looks really good to the environmentalists.
I'd almost like to wait till next year till the town, this planning board comes up with their zoning regulations they're gonna have people follow, because it could be a lot more to this than we're looking at right now.
Well, but this doesn't specify anything. This is just for the qualifying structures if they make
That's what I mean, it doesn't
improvement.
specify anything, and I think I'd like to have the zoning ordinances in place too, so.
Okay.
They've gotta do this, it's gonna cost them money.
Actually, right now, the planning board is not discussing making any particular zone for this. I mean, we are putting a chapter into the master plan, but there is no zoning ordinance change for this year coming proposed for the plan.
That's what I kind of like to.
Right, so
wait
if it's
till
going
next
to
year.
come, if next year they're gonna do it, and you did this that same year, it could make it easier for the zoning one to pass if there's gonna be an incentive at the same time.
That's what I was thinking of.
That way.
You know, if we're gonna say that you have to move, you know, septic systems within so many feet have to be moved.
Septic, or you gotta move your well, yeah. And that way, it kind of also gives a guide to,
Yep,
Where
if
we
they're
can
on the
sit
same
there.
year, they might balance out the,
plus I like to look, I also wanted to look at the stuff for the historic homes on that next year too, so,
so you wanna put off this one?
for next year, yes.
One,
What are
two,
Yep.
okay. All right, so back to page that we skipped over. Do we wanna put anything into the road improvement fund?
Or do we want to figure out, after we spend everything else, what have we got left?
Okay.
That's a
All
good
right,
idea.
25,000 again into transfer station equipment?
That's the last year, correct?
That's what, Jim?
Last year.
And after we do this, there will be enough in the fund to purchase or possibly purchase equipment.
Correct.
Why is it talking about the road improvement capital reserve?
Because
Because there was a typo. Oh yeah, it says that every time. Because obviously I was cutting, pasting the deposit articles. Sorry,
Okay.
okay, so we spent 25.
okay. Town equipment is the one we just established last year with 25.
Again, road improvement.
Yeah, and I'll fix all of those things.
What town equipment are we looking at, just
Mowers,
Everything?
mowers, trucks,
Balers,
balers,
Mm.
anything.
Adding machines, not.
no, it would have to be bigger than that, but
Well, I mean,
like a
not
server.
necessarily, yeah, but
Yes,
inside office, outside
correct. Yep.
machine.
Primarily for property maintenance, when we talked about.
Right, primarily, but yes, if something went, you know, here that, you know, the main server went, it was 15 grand year end.
Right.
Yes.
So we have 25,000.
In there right now, yes.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with the 25,000.
All right,
Not a
so
lot
that's
of money
50.
for,
Well, we got a lot of things going on, and why don't we do 15,000, that'll bring it up to 40,000.
Did
we got enough with
did we do 25 last? Okay.
But last year we had a lot more flexibility and we were at 2.2.
Well, yes, but then, okay. If we left it at 25 until we decide what we have to spend and what we want for roads, then we can make our adjustments. How about we do that?
Just leave it at 25 for right now.
Just
I mean,
for
I'll leave
discussion.
it,
Just for discussion until we get through our warrant
Right.
articles and
we can
then,
come back on it.
yeah, and
all right.
The ambulance billing is the standard. Police equipment, that's the bulletproof vest, she recommended we go up to 25, because the next batch, you know,
Right.
as the price escalates. The bill for the current one is in there right now.
Okay.
So where do we stand now?
ambulance building doesn't change, we haven't spent anything from our
Right.
fund balance. And police equipment spends 25, so we would be at 52,500 out of about 250 or
Yeah.
300, yeah.
Okay.
And those were the only things that we were looking to put money in, other than the road improvement fund.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So if we started at 1844 and you wanted to get down to about 16,
Yeah.
you'd spend about 250. Okay.
And you want to leave a little bit available if you want to reduce tax impact and tax rate setting.
And that would be the 1.6 to 1.5, or let's say.
Okay.
So at least 100,000 for tax
Yeah,
impact.
just in case, because the school is looking at like a
9%.
90 cent
Well,
Oh, we're talking tax rate,
tax rate impact, yeah.
Okay.
we're talking $600 per house.
Right, it's like it's a little over $1 or
So
like
we-
90
Yeah,
cents.
so if we said about 250,000, and we've spent about 52.5.
Yep.
Then that's gonna allow you to put, approximately $197,500 into your road improvement, if we use those numbers. And then we know from our engineering study, we have Great Bay West one way or another. It ain't going away.
Right, because the selectmen are agents to expend from this, because then you can pull it back out.
Yeah, and what's in there now? In road improvement?
I'm gonna say 180.
Okay, so this will bring us in the range of 360, 375, something like that,
375, yeah.
which gives you quite a lot of freedom to keep going on the list.
Yep.
Which is important to know.
And cover any emergencies that happen in between.
So this way, we've taken care of the transfer station.
So do you want to round it to like 195? Or if you
That's
say
okay.
197.5, does it make the voters think that that was a very particular number?
Whatever. I'm comfortable with these ranges, whatever adjustment.
I think 195, because then if we say 197.5, they're going to say, how did you come up with that number? And they're going to want,
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
yeah,
exactly.
it's just too,
They'll nitpick.
they will.
Right, okay, make it 195.
That's okay. Yeah, and this way, we've made our substantial commitments to roads, to the transfer station,
Yep.
to town equipment. We've made all of our substantial equipment, all of our substantial promises are kept. And we're still in good, solid financial place.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else, have we covered them all, Karen?
Yes. I think I have all the answers I have. Fire departments. Yep, I can put the warrant together for you.
Okey dokey.
And I'll try to follow along with that order that, putting those earlier things earlier. But I still won't assign a number so that, and what I'll probably do to be ready for public hearing is just assign them by alphabet.
Okay, by doing that, we've put 27,939 plus 195 into road improvements.
Yep.
And so therefore, road improvements are 222,939 roughly, almost
excellent.
225,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be adding on to this warrant, I'll add the balance in each of those accounts and things.
I have not heard of petition warrant articles coming. I don't
No,
know.
the only one I heard, which was today, and Mr. Hagner alluded to it briefly, was that Leonard Schwab said that he would like to do a warrant article, and he said, tell the selectmen, see if they want to do it for me, which I don't see you doing that, to request a warrant article to remove the approval of the planning board requirement from the 2010 authorization for Great Bay Drive East and West.
And what I would suggest you do is that you call the LGC attorney hotline. If something like that were to come forward, would that violate 67440?
Right. Or does town meet, because my question is,
Oh, 1 second, 67440.
Okay.
that planning board has the right to roads. They
Okay.
have the approval of the roads.
All right.
But can town meeting usurp the planning board?
And to me, the answer is no.
Right,
In other words, town meeting can't do something that violates a state statute.
right,
And state statute, if you look at 67440, what it'll say is if you're talking about a road that has not been approved in any way by the planning board in any way, shape, or form, then the planning board gets a look at it.
right. But do they get to look at it?
No, but it's more than that.
Right.
They have to approve it.
Okay. Yeah. 'cause
Okay,
that-
well, like
yeah,
you said, maybe
it's a
you
mess.
call, and find out, just.
Just use your free call.
Yeah.
Get
Only
Steve
one.
This
Buckley,
time of year, get in line.
Only one?
and that's fine.
Oh, no, you
But
can
I
call all the
would- but I
time.
would
Some
tell you,
people, they don't even have a
don't-
town attorney, they use
Don't hold
LLC
any
only.
more than 3 minutes on the line. over 3 minutes. You're not being paid for that, hang up.
Look, back in my day, we did 6,000 calls a year.
Right, there's towns that don't have a town attorney and don't refer things to a town attorney, they just talk to NHMA and get the free legal stuff all the time. And they ask them, I'm sure you got questions that like they should have known the answer to that.
Over and over.
Yeah, I'm like,
But I also got tremendously interesting calls from town administrators all the time.
Yep.
You know, I've got this strange, unusual situation. We would talk it out.
yeah,
And this is one of those. Talk it out.
oh,
Is there anything else anybody else would like to discuss?
oh, manifests.
Manifest, yeah.
We're just sort of like packing up and,
No, I know,
oh, you still got them, okay.
Handing them off to Jim.
Approved.
I was just like,
Okay. This is manifest number 26, general fund accounts payable. I move that we approve the attached manifest of unpaid bills detail as of December 28, 2017, in the amount of $453,986.54.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I have payroll manifest number 26. If I approve the attached payroll number 26, December 28th, 2017, December 11th, 2017, through and including December 24th, 2017.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So,
All right, anything else to come before us?
Just a real quickie, on the 300th anniversary group, we're meeting on the 2nd. For Christmas, my daughter gave me a hot thing for my coffee. Greenland, New Hampshire, established 1721. We bought it at Hallmark. So I guess we better get cracking on getting our, if we're gonna have revenue coming in from
before Hallmark beats us out of
selling
it.
doodads.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's something.
It didn't have the town seal or anything, because I was wondering about that, but,
You probably have trademark rights for that.
The town seal, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, sounds good.
That's at 6:30, right, Joe?
yeah, yes.
January 2nd, okay.
Charlotte said we had a meeting, she never did tell me when.
Do you post that on the website?
I spoke to Charlotte this day.
Yeah, it's already on there. It's
All right,
on the
anything
Facebook
else,
page.
anybody else like to discuss? All right, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Looking forward to a prosperous 2018. I want to tell you, I've enjoyed sitting here with all of you. Been great. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.